أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So Yusuf alayhi salam then obviously after accepting the office and was given the leadership or the managerial role to look after the people during those tough times, the first 7 years being the good ones and then subsequent 7 years of drought. He made good arrangements to have the stock of grains and then he get them stored properly and then subsequently it was used properly by people. So it helped them and the society very well. So it was quite sufficient for their personal need, and yet they had enough stored for them to be used later on. The famine wasn't just limited to Egypt, it was actually quite widespread. The people from different parts of the world started finding out about the food available in Egypt. So Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam then started a system whereby he would sell the grains and he would not only benefit the people there and also the benefit from abroad, like from other parts of the world. But he made a point that he would only give one person and only one camel load. And this is just understood from different Mufassirun's collection and compilation. And most of that is actually based on Israeliyat. Israeliyat, the Israeli tradition, the tradition of previous scriptures. So some of the stuff from their books have been taught to us by some people who came to Islam from being Christian or Jewish before. So they accepted Islam and they were, mashallah, very good, nice, learned people in their own religion as well, which was with them for previously. So like Ka'b al-Ahbar. So what they did, they narrated their side of stories about this. And as you would see, Quran and Hadith generally would not go into too much details because what concerns us is the real understanding of the issue at hand rather than knowing the details. So it's about the difference between information and knowledge. So Quran and Sunnah is not about information, it's about knowledge. So whatever is beneficial for you. So it would not go into details. But some of the bits which make sense, which are in keeping with the understanding of Quran and Sunnah, you can understand that without much deliberation. So there's no harm in taking those. So Mufassirun have taken some of that. So anyway, so this is from there that he would allow one camel load per person, which was about a wasaq, according to Imam Qurtubi, rahmatullahi alayhi, the Maliki jurist from Spain, and which is about 60 sa', which according to our stuff is 2 kilograms. It will come to approximately 1953 grams. That is his way, only Allah knows. Anyway, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. So with that background, people from Canaan, from different parts of the world, likewise, in those days, Syria, where Sayyidina Yaqub and his children were. So the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they entered, they came as well, and they met him. فَعَرَفَهُمْ. So they, obviously, 9 of them, perhaps 10 of them, they came without the younger brother, Binyamin. Binyamin was kept with father because he would not trust the brothers ever, obviously, with the incident that they've been through with regards to Yusuf alayhi salam. So Yusuf alayhi salam recognized him immediately. وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. While they could not recognize him, they didn't know. And it's quite common. When the 10 brothers came, they were wearing quite special robes. Yusuf alayhi salam was obviously seen in a most elegant way. So Yusuf alayhi salam is nearly about 40 years plus. So he was, say, 9 or 10 when he was, or 8 to 10 when he was sold in the market of Egypt. And now he's about 40 years later, according to Abdullah ibn Abbas, he's 45, 47, maybe even 50, close to that age, which is quite senior age. So it's highly unlikely that you would recognize any glimpses. Even if he had some of those resemblances, it is not possible that people would think about him when they knew that we threw him in the well and there's no news of him. He must have been dead by now. So that's why they never realized. And he was only a 7-year-old child, for example. Ibn Kathir said, when these 10 brothers read the quotes, and Yusuf al-Islam interrogated them, as is done with suspicious people, so that they would state the truth clearly. First of all, he asked them, you are not residents of Egypt, you speak Hebrew. How do you get here? They said, there's a great famine in our country. We have heard about you, therefore we are here to get some grains. And Yusuf al-Islam asked, how do we know that you are telling the truth and that you are not the enemy or spy? They said, God forbid, we can never do that. We are the sons of Prophet of Allah, Yaqub alayhi salam, who lives in Canaan. This is one way, as Imam Ibn Kathir, in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, mentioned how Yusuf alayhi salam came to know that they are the brothers. But I would suggest that we don't need that much. It is quite clear that what I think, Yusuf alayhi salam was 7 or 8, but the brothers were in their late teens and early 20s. So they were all like, one after the other. So quite senior. You do not get much change in your appearance after the age of 16, 17. You get a little bit different, but not too much change. So Yusuf alayhi salam has already seen the brothers, number one. And Yusuf alayhi salam was the only one who knew that I'm alive. Others didn't. And Yusuf alayhi salam also knew the people are coming from different parts of the world. And with their clothing, it is completely understandable that Yusuf alayhi salam would know automatically that these are the clothes of my people. My nation would dress up like that. He wouldn't have forgotten. 7-year-old is quite, mature in that regard, age of discernment. That is why when you start commanding children to start praying at the age of 7. So I think it's quite clear. And Yusuf alayhi salam, through the demeanor, through the language, would have understood it straight away. I think he realized immediately. فَعَرَفَهُمْ, he just recognized without any trouble at all. So he recalled immediately. ولما جهزهم بجهازهم قال ائتوني بأخ لكم من أبيكم ألا ترون أني أوفي الكيل وأنا خير المنزلين. And when they were going back, when they started furnishing the goods, the supplies, he said, Yusuf alayhi salam said to them, bring me a brother of yours from your father. Don't you see that I give full measure and that I'm the best of the accommodators? I'm going to honor you in the nice way, that the way I did it. So what happened, Yusuf alayhi salam, obviously when he realized, he was not allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to disclose. So he didn't disclose his identity yet. He would treat them in a nice way. He kept them so close to him that people could see the people around him in the court in Egypt. They could see him. They're special people. And with their appearance, obviously you could imagine if Yusuf alayhi salam himself was the most beautiful person out there with a lot of awe and his glamour, you could imagine the brothers would be similar. I mean, they might not be as beautiful, but they must definitely be a lot, glamorous than compared to any other people. And they were pious as well. Pious generally, obviously with certain issues that they had at the trial, but so you could see that they were not people of shirk. unlike many other nations at that time. The reason Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam asked these questions were to make them open up, make them speak freely and express. Since Yusuf alayhi salam wasn't supposed to ask about the father and the brother, he just started general discussion in order to make sure that they themselves start talking about the brother. And that is why they mentioned how they were 12 and one disappeared. And that was the, some solace for Yusuf alayhi salam in this regard, by hearing from them the status of their father, how he is still alive, good state, healthy, missing Yusuf, and Benjamin is with father looking after him. And then when they're about to leave, Yusuf alayhi salam got this idea. First he said to them, so your brother that you didn't bring, why don't you bring him as well? As you know that I give 1 camel load per person, so you may have 1 extra. And you know what? It's only fair that you bring him. So do that. And then in a nice way, when you get some, when you do favors, people feel like doing it. So he said, if you don't, then, I'm not going to be that happy with you. And perhaps I would not be with you. Like, I would not treat you in the way that I have just treated you in a nice way. So, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِي فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونِ. But if you do not bring him to me, no measure will be there for you from me, nor will you approach me. Then don't come to me, because you're not, listening to my suggestion. I'm only going to help you. So as he was only giving 1 camel load to 1 individual, and as the stuff was already been clearly calculated and measured, he was allowed to give a second time. So he thought about getting the brother, the younger brother who he was missing. He was not supposed to meet father yet. That is why he never asked about him, but he was still allowed to have inquiry about the brother and get him. So that is why he suggested that. And on top of that, so firstly, the brothers agreed. They said, they said, we will attempt to dissuade his father from keeping him away from us. Means we will ensure that our father accept your request. And indeed, we will do it. We would bring our brother. This is, in one way, a very, very disappointing situation spiritually and from propriety point of view. The children, the sons, they knew that the father would not like it, but they were quite eager to gain some extra measure, 1 extra load of camel, and completely disregarding the will of their father, which is that he wouldn't want to send his son, which he never does anyway, after he lost Yusuf alayhi salam, and he is now very elderly, and he has got a young son to look after him, and he is now blind as well, because he's crying and missing Yusuf alayhi salam. And even if maybe he's getting blind, according to Quranic description, he got blind a bit later. It could be that he already was blind then, or he became blind after the second incident of losing another son. So this is what we generally do. We know that they wouldn't like certain things, our parents, our teachers, our mentors, elders, and we still go against their wishes for our personal paltry gains. We need to learn this adab, that we should prefer others over us, do things according to their wishes, their wanting, and that would get you more close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they will be happy and make dua for you. وَقَالَ لِفِتْيَانِهِ جَعَلُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ. في رحالهم لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم لعلهم يرجعون. And then Yusuf alayhi salam said to his servant, put their merchandise, the stuff that they brought, the metal, earthen, metalwares and pots and other gold and silver stuff that they had, pearls and other things, to give it in return for the camel load. So what Yusuf alayhi salam said, put all those back in their saddlebags. So when they reach home, they might recognize it. Well, they would recognize it, obviously, when they have gone back to their people, and that would bring them back. Now that they haven't got any wealth left, clearly with 10 people coming to collect 10 camel loads, they have invested a lot of money to buy it. And yet, if they find their merchandise, their stuff back in their saddlebag, they will feel happy about it, and they would feel like coming back for a second chance of getting more stuff. Either that, or there could be another reason for them to think about it and coming back. We'll come to that in a second. So this is a secret arrangement Yusuf alayhi salam made. He did that so that they didn't know until they reached back to their places, their cash, their jewelry, the stuff. فلما رجعوا إلى أبيهم قالوا يا أبانا منع منا الكيل فأرسل معنا أخانا نكتل وإنا له لحافظون. When they returned to their father, they said, "Oh, our father, we have been denied of any measure. So send with us our brother, so that we can have full measure again. Indeed, we will be his guardian. Inna lahu lahafidun. We will guard him, don't worry." Again, you could see they have done something wrong the last time, and again at that point they plotted. Here, they haven't got any plot against Binyamin, yet they haven't even learned the etiquettes of saying, Inshallah, hopefully, Inshallah, Allah will help us. You make dua for us. But there's no remorse for whatever they have not learned anything from the mistake. There's no hesitation at all in putting forth their demand, straight onto the demand. One can suggest nicely, one can ask the same question in a nice, empathetic way. That don't worry. I know it's a problem, but they're saying it now. If the king is not going to be happy with us, then perhaps we will not get anything in future. We will finish this load maybe in the next, because we've got 10 families here to feed. So we might just run out within a few weeks, maybe a month at the most, or less. Then we would need more food. So if we do not get that, where else could we go? So please, help us with this. And we promise him we will never do that again. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help us with this, and you continue to make dua. So it's like, relying on your own self, making big claims. Yeah, I would do it. Yes, I can. That sort of attitude is not good. This is quite, arrogant. قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما أمنتكم على أخيه من قبل فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. Now Yusuf alayhi salam's father, Yaqub alayhi salam, is obviously going to say this very obvious, which is, should I trust you again as I trusted you with his brother Yusuf alayhi salam before? And then he said, but Allah is the best guardian and he is the most merciful of merciful. You see, you're saying that you could look after him? Allah is the best guardian. His connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you could see after 40 years of loss, missing the son, it didn't swerve him away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, he was a mighty prophet, mashallah. And he did not even rebuke them. He did not sever the relationship. He's still doing the right thing. If children make mistakes, you cannot cut off the relationship with them and try to reform them. nurture them. They made a mistake. The mistake was very serious. Actually, they've not just made one mistake, the series of major sins they have committed. They lied to their father first time. They then pledged to their father that they would bring him back. They treated a young brother, Yusuf alayhi salam, in a very cruel way. They caused him pain, caused his father pain, their father pain. They conspire against the innocent boy. They sold him. A human being cannot be forcefully sold, it's haram. And they did all of that. But you could see the two beautiful qualities of Yaqub alayhi salam. He did not do what people would do in reaction. There was no sense of revenge, no retaliation. He kept his demeanor so immaculate that there was no issues whatsoever that he raised would offend or upset them, except that they had this idea, we can still ask for something. We did it because the goal is to rectify them, to make them upright, train them. And you can only do that through patience, nice and sincere advices. These are old boys. You can't hit them, rebuke them. They might just turn against you. They can maybe even leave something which is essential of faith and then become like disbeliever. What the old possibilities. So you do not want to lose them. You have to nurture them in the nice way. Even if they needed to be told off, you do that in a nice way, in a way that you know that you're not doing it as a reaction. And you can admonish them at times. But again, you should make sure that they understand where you're coming from. The sense of love, the compassion should still be there. You don't want to shame them. You don't want to embarrass them. You just make them realize their mistake in a nice way, even if it means that you have to rebuke them, then making sure that they understand them, they learn from their mistake and improve their situation. So initially, the second time when they asked, he said, no, shall I trust you? And then finally, he accepted the request the second time as well. He put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was happy with that. He said, Ya Allah, I have trust in you, and I'm going to let them take my son, the younger one, with the condition that they are honest and trustworthy. They made a mistake the first time. They plotted against him. I'm going to give them a second chance with the hope that they have learned a lot in the last 40 years that I've been nurturing and training them. It took a bit long, but now that there is a hope, let's try. So he nicely reminded them of their mistake, showed them his anger or upset, and yet he did not shun them completely. He let them prove that they have improved, they have changed for the good. And alhamdulillah, that's exactly what would happen when you see, inshallah, next time. May Allah give us tawfiq to understand and learn all those beautiful attributes and nice ways as the prophets. So he is like Yusuf alayhi salam and Yaqub alayhi salam, how they're dealing with the situation that they're in. May Allah give us tawfiq.